Let's get ready to mortgage. He is the prince of programs, guru of guidelines, master of matrices. He puts the fun in funding. Please welcome Mark, Mr. Mortgage, I tell.
All right. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you, my friends, are in the right place if you want the information, the data. I mean the real stuff, not the headlines. We go way deeper. We put our hands in there. We smash it around and squeeze it and get to the real stuff. So if you want the data, the tips, the tricks, the strategies, the inside info, if you will, so you can go out there and make better real estate and mortgage decisions for you and your family, well, you are in the right place. We do this each week right here, same time, same station. So thank you so much for joining us. There's a ton of headlines, a ton of questions, a lot of doubt around the real estate market right now, and we're going to debunk some of the myths and answer your questions around what's going on in this crazy real estate market. So I mentioned your questions. That's a big part of our show. That's why we're here. So if you have questions and you want to get them on the air, Dom, my producer, is manning the Anytime hotline, and that telephone number is 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. And that is the all-new Anytime hotline. We got a toll-free number, because as we're growing the network of stations that carry the show, we're now heard in several area codes, so we wanted to make it super easy. So 855-462-7292 is the Anytime hotline. Go ahead and call that number or text your questions to that number, and Dom will get you on the air. If you're not comfortable calling or texting, visit the website, mr.mortgage. That's www.mr.mortgage. Never a .com, just mr.mortgage. And you can submit your questions through the Contact Us button. He's manning the computer as well. He's a man of many talents. He's like an octopus back there, running the board, answering calls, and checking emails. So he'll get you on the air. But yeah, it was another interesting week in the real estate and mortgage space. If you're reading the headlines, sadly, you're looking at yesterday and sometimes last week's news, and things are changing pretty quickly. So, rates went below 5, then back over 5, and then touched 6 in some instances. So there was a lot of movement in the market this week, all around the economic data, international in some capacity. There was a rate move on the news of the EU inflation. And while that doesn't directly impact our economy, it is kind of a precursor of what's happening in global events and global economies, and there's some thought that we may be in for more inflation longer than we think based on that news. So there was a little bump in rates on that news early in the week, and then on Friday things kind of seemed to settle back down. So if you have questions about any of that, give us a call or shoot us a text. But I want to jump into a couple of the headlines that I read that jumped out at me. The National Association of Realtors and my buddy Lawrence Young over there at NAR, they published an article about contract signings are down for the 8th consecutive month. And we're going to talk a little bit about housing recession, because that's also a buzzword that's getting thrown around a lot in this market. But the number of houses that are selling have gone down each of the last 8 months. Now, here's the good news. They're still appreciating. And I say good news from the standpoint of the market's still healthy. The market is still supporting these values. There are just fewer people buying houses. And because of that, there's a little more inventory on the market because they're selling at a slower pace. But the prices are holding, and we're still experiencing double-digit appreciation. I know in our listening area, we've had 15 and 20% appreciation in some neighborhoods. Nationally, it's between 10.8 and 14.6% is the average nationally, depending on the price point of the market. Things move differently at different paces at different price points, but albeit at a slower number of units selling per month, if any of that makes sense. So it's deceiving because you hear housing recession, you hear number of sales down again for the 8th month, and it sounds like the precursor to a slide. But then when you dig into values are still there. They're still appreciating. So it's the double-edged sword of appreciating values and increasing interest rates that's putting a pressure on affordability, which is why fewer people are buying. And more people are cautious now because appreciation is slowing. Last year, people were throwing $50,000, $75,000, $100,000 over the asking price because things were appreciating so quickly that extra expense was absorbed relatively quickly in the process. The house was appreciating so fast that extra money was now in the property after 6 or 8 months because things were moving so quickly. Now that they aren't moving as quickly, people are really scrutinizing the purchase, and we're not seeing over asking price offers in most instances. In some of the lower price points, we're still seeing a lot of activity. And Mr. Young's article alludes to that as well, that there's some price reduction and some slowing at the high end of the market. But in the lower end of the market, the more affordable, the first-time buyer world, if you will, there's still a ton of competition. And I point that out only because if there's a ton of competition in that first-time buyer market, that means people are still selling and buying in that market. There's still a move-up market. So I believe because of all of that, the market still remains healthy. I get it. It's super expensive compared to last year and compared to the year before that. But there's not any big flashing danger sign yet in the market. We're still seeing rents appreciate. We're still seeing values appreciate. And even though home numbers are coming down, prices are still holding an appreciated value. And yes, sellers are cutting prices, but they're cutting prices and asking price from maybe an unrealistic number back to a realistic number, and the closed value or the closed price of that house is still, in most instances, somewhere between 10 and 20% more than it was last year. So I share all that just to say that in the now, there doesn't appear to be an immediate danger, Will Robinson, on the horizon, because there's still not a ton of supply coming to the market, which is what it's going to take to tip this into a true buyer's market and maybe some pressure on prices. And I say that because a lot of homeowners right now, there's no incentive for them to sell because they may have refinanced and they have the 2 or 3% interest rate. They have a ton of equity in their property, and they're not really excited about selling and going out there and taking a 5 or 6% interest rate to buy another property, because all they did, even if they make a lateral move, all they did was increase their expenses. And they may have cashed some equity out too. But anyway, there's just, because of that, permit numbers are down, home starts are down. We're moving into a seasonally slow period for construction on a national level. All of that being said, there's just not a ton of inventory coming to the market, and we're still seeing properties appreciate. So I thought that was a very interesting article. I'll share that to the Facebook page. Go to Facebook and search the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you've heard me also talk about in the past the foolishness that fueled this market a couple years ago, and as recently as 8 or 10 months ago, with people waiving inspections and waiving all the contingencies. And you've heard me bark about it on the air for all of this year at least, that you don't want to do that. Well, I found this a super interesting article to support another reason why you want to do your inspections. There was a survey of home sellers, and it shows that 94% of sellers don't disclose defects in the property. So if 94% of the sellers are hiding something about the property, it might be something tiny, the refrigerator's on the fritz, or the AC, we just pumped it full of Freon so it'll pass the inspection. Or it could be something as nefarious as, the window was leaking and they just put Kills on the water stain and painted it. You want your property inspector to go out there and give you a third set of eyes, and unrelated to the transaction. He's not biased, or she's not biased, and she's giving you an honest opinion of the condition of the property. And this is one more reason why you don't want to waive inspections or contingencies, because 94% of the sellers are not showing you all the pimples on the bottom of the house that they're selling. So hopefully you found that interesting. If you need a good home inspector, give us a shout. I'd be happy to introduce you to one, 855-462-7292. But you hear the music. Dom is jumping up and down behind the board telling me we've got to get into a break. So we're going to be back in 2 very short minutes to take more of your questions and move on with the show. Hang with us. Thanks.
Buying a home can be stressful. Willow Title Services will help you close the deal. Offering tailored services for your unique home buying needs, you'll have a single team member guide you from day one to the day you get your keys. They have a combined 50 years of experience. So trust the closing experts and contact them today. Visit WillowTitleServices.com. That's WillowTitleServices.com. Willow Title Services is rooted in experience to help you get to closing.
Here's another 5-star review.
My wife and I own a small business. And the way our accountant file our taxes, we don't show much income on tax returns. Because of this, it looks as if we don't make the money. This was a problem for our bank when we applied for a mortgage. But not for Mark. He verifies our income by using our monthly bank statements. Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team made a big difference for me. Yes, I am happy to recommend Mr. Mortgage Mark.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are tuned in to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And you heard Ike. If you want your questions on the air, just give Dom a call at 855-462-7292. That's 855-462-7292. That is the Anytime Hotline. Or you can find us online at mr.mortgage. Never a .com. Just type in the 3 W's, the dot, Mr., the dot, and then mortgage. No .com, boom, will pop right up. You can submit your questions through the website also via email. Dom is also manning the email line, so he'll get your questions on the air. And just to finish up my thought on that, I said, 94% of sellers surveyed said they don't disclose all of the property defects. And the article goes on to say how many of the people who bought and waived their home inspections actually regretted it afterwards. And the 3 places they found the most defects in the property, the top problems, if you will, that buyers discovered after closing when they didn't have an inspection was problems with the electrical system overall, problems with some of the fixtures, and the plumbing. Those were the top 3. And the article goes on to say that most of those problems resulted from unpermitted work done to the house. So another reason why you want to go in with your eyes wide open and get your home inspection. And if you're buying property now in this market, you're super encouraged because all of the contingencies are back in play. One benefit of the slowing market, in addition to prices appreciating at a slower pace, properties are becoming more obtainable, if you will. You now have all your rights back in play. You can get the contingency for a home inspection. You can get the contingency for financing, the appraisal contingency, all the stuff people were foolishly waiving. And we've talked about it. You can go to mrmortgageradio.com. That's mrmortgageradio.com and listen to some of the past podcasts about, who are you waiving at? I think we titled one of them because everybody was waiving every right. And this is, one more reason why it's not smart to do that. But the good news is that almost all of the contracts that we're seeing have those normal contingencies baked back into them and you're doing your inspections. And hey, while I'm talking about that, we read an article a couple shows ago about, buyers are canceling contracts at an alarming rate. And that's true, right? That's very true. But however, they're not canceling the contract and then going back to their rental. They're canceling the contract, at least in my practice. And I'm sharing this only because we had 2 contract cancellations this week. And it was as a direct result of property inspections. One, there were numerous problems that were uncovered. And the other, there were small problems, but in both instances, the sellers didn't want to resolve the issues. In the first one, with all the problems, the sellers, I don't think they could even afford to fix all the issues. But anyway, the buyers canceled the contract and just moved on to another property, and they're both back under contract, have gone through the inspection process, and it's likely that they're going to move to a closing. So the cancellation headline that you see bouncing around out there, it's not as alarming as it appears because the buyers are not canceling the contract because of interest rates or because they're no longer approved. Because if they're in contract, they already know their rate. They're most likely locked. They're certainly locked if they're with us, and they know their rate. So that's not the cause of the cancellation. The cancellation, at least what we're seeing, is either an appraisal issue or an inspection issue. So hopefully you found that interesting. And we're going to get to your questions. That's my favorite part of the show. I know Dom's got a couple questions teed up over there, so I'm going to throw it over to Dom and see what we've got question-wise.
All right. Juan is asking, what is a non-warranted condo? My realtor is telling me they are harder to get a mortgage on. Is this true? How do I tell if there's a warranty?
Hey, Juan. So what you're referring to is not a warranty, but it's non-warrantable versus warrantable. And it's super, super confusing, and I get it. I mean, it certainly sounds like we're talking about, like a home warranty. That's not the case. So those terms apply to a property that meets the requirements under conventional financing guidelines. And in direct relation to a condo association, the condo docs and the condo questionnaire have been reviewed and accepted as acceptable. So they've looked at the budget, they've looked at the reserves, they've read the minutes to see if there are any deferred maintenance issues. The board filled out the questionnaire in full, and everything came back. That's considered a warrantable condo. If the condo is warrantable, then all of the financing options are available to you, with the exception of FHA, because that's a different approval process to get a condo association FHA approved. Not difficult, just additional. So warrantable condos mean that they meet all of the requirements for all of the loan products available in the world of conventional financing. Non-warrantable means either your condo association is unable to produce the documents required to meet the warrantable status, or they're unwilling. Maybe there's a budget shortage. There's not enough money in escrow for repairs as per the calculations of the discovery when the lender is reviewing the condo docs. That is classed as non-warrantable, and a non-warrantable condo is financeable for sure. It just requires a larger down payment. Most of the time, you're looking at a 25% down payment on a non-warrantable condo, and the reason is nothing to do with the building. It's, I'm sure it's super desirable, but from the lender standpoint, because of the management of the building, there may be more risk associated with a condo that doesn't have all of the budget items in order, and they're unable to pay for unforeseen expenses. Or a lot of condos are managed by individual, retirees, and they have all the best intentions in the world, but they're not collecting enough in association dues to properly fund the reserve accounts. And because of that, they either have to place assessments on the properties or increase the dues to get the reserves up to a point that the condo meets the warrantable status. And some people are just unwilling to do that because it's more money out of their pocket. But anyway, hopefully that answers your question. I don't think it's a warranty issue. I believe what your realtor is referring to is warrantable versus non-warrantable. And I hope that explanation made sense to you. If it didn't, I encourage you to give us a shout, and I'm happy to deep dive that with you. But even a non-warrantable condo is financeable. It's just going to require a larger down payment. So thanks, Juan, for that question. If you need more info, give us a shout. I'll be happy to walk you through it. Hey, Dom, what else do we have?
Kimberly sent this one. I'm reading that if the economy goes into a recession, rates will come back down. When do you think this will happen?
Okay, Kimberly, I know the articles you're referring to. And so first of all, let's just set the record straight. Whether the administration wants to admit it or not, we are technically in a recession. We've experienced 2 quarters of contraction in GDP. And just like they're saying housing is in a recession because the market numbers are contracting, the economy is as well. Now, interestingly enough, typically to restart an economy that's in recession, the Fed may lower interest rates to get things rolling again. And historically, they've done that. The challenge this time around is rates are still historically low. So while you can look at the charts and see over the course of the last 7 or 8 recessions that on the backside of the recession, the Federal Reserve loosened monetary policy to encourage growth again, they were starting at a point much higher than we're starting now. So I don't know that I'm convinced by looking at the data alone that rates are going to go back down to where we've just come from. I mean, you got to remember this too, Kimberly. First of all, it's a brilliant question, and I commend you for doing the research because you're obviously deep diving the data to even have that question teed up. So I commend you for that. But I'm not sure we're going back there because of the historical nature of how we got there. It took a global pandemic. It took a worldwide shutdown of all economies in the world. I mean, don't forget, I think it was Italy where people were locked in their house for months and they were delivering food to the doorstep because, nobody was allowed to meander out because of the fear of spreading COVID. So we essentially turned the lights off and went home as an entire world during COVID, and the economic policy that we employed to navigate through that is what drove rates down to where they were. So I'm not convinced that a recession alone is going to cause the Fed to loosen to where we just came from because we were artificially low, driven by a once-in-a-lifetime pandemic. So hopefully that answers your question. You hear the music. That means we're going to jump into a break. We're going to be back in 2 minutes to take more of your questions. Sit tight.
Buying your home is likely the biggest transaction you'll ever make. With stakes that high, you need certainty. Willow Title Services strives to take the stress away by providing a single point of contact with clear communication, resulting in a painless and positive experience. Willow Title Services has over 50 years in industry-leading and closing techniques, rooting them in the experience needed to get you to close. Call Willow Title Services at 561-737-1630 or online at willowtitleservices.com.
Here's another 5-star review.
We started our loan with a different company. They said we were approved, but at the last minute they told us there was a problem. I still don't know what went wrong, but thankfully our real estate agent told us about Mark. I was pretty stressed, but it's the perfect house, so we gave Mark a shot. He got it done. I'm not sure what was different, but I don't really care. We even got a better interest rate and with less money out of pocket than the first guy quoted us. It was a great surprise. Yes, I'm happy to recommend Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com, www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. We do this every week right here, same time, same station, and always look forward to your questions, and we're going to keep them rolling here in just a minute. But before we do, I want to give a shout out to my friends at Willow Title Services. Heather is a rock star. You guys know how much I think of them as a company and her as an individual. We even had her on the air last week talking about her book, so check out the Facebook page. I posted a link there where you can buy her book. So let's support her, local lady. She's an author now, published, which is super cool. And she and her mom run an amazing group of people there at Willow Title Services. So check them out at willowtitleservices.com, willowtitleservices.com, or give them a call at 561-737-1630. And next time we get her on, we're going to talk about some of the more complicated investor closings that she's had and give some tips and strategies around making that a smoother process, because we deal with a lot of investors in both of our practices, and whether it's assigning a contract or doing, a same-day closing on a flip, they're rock stars. So anyway, that's all I have for you on that. I just wanted to say hey to Heather and her team. So, and while I'm thinking about it, I got a text during the break. I was peeking over Dom's shoulder, and I got a little bit of flack for an episode that we have published on the podcast station. Go to MrMortgageRadio.com. That's MrMortgageRadio.com. And search the episode called Grandma's Mustache. Guys, if you listen to the show for any amount of time, you know that I think in pictures, and I've always got to weave some kind of crazy story into my answers, and they're usually self-deprecating and from my past experience. So I talk about my buddy's grandma and the big mustache that she had burned off when we were in high school. But check out Grandma's Mustache at MrMortgageRadio.com. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you think I went too far, but we had fun with that. So anyway, let me throw it over to Dom and see what we have question-wise.
Steve sent a text. Do you think adding solar panels will help or hurt the value of my house?
Hey, Steve, that is a great question. And we're seeing more and more of this because, we're the Sunshine State, right? And the solar panel salespeople have definitely hit the ground and have their A game. They have their game face on, because I've heard some of the sales presentations and these guys are good, right? So will it help or hurt? The answer is I don't think it's going to do either. It's certainly not going to hurt the value, because most of these guys are putting a brand new roof on the property at the same time they're doing the solar panels, and they're rolling it into a PACE loan, or, you're paying it in your taxes. The challenge is, and we've seen this on more than one occasion, if your intent is not to pay that loan off, right? You're going to put the solar panels on the property and your goal is to sell the house at a future date, and you're expecting the buyer to absorb that solar panel loan, which I get it, right? It makes sense. You're thinking, okay, Mr. Buyer, you're not ever going to have to pay an electric bill again. You might as well, take over the solar loan. They're not often qualified to do that. And if the buyer is getting a mortgage, then the mortgage company, the first mortgage company, has to underwrite them with that solar payment, that future potential solar payment included in their debt ratio. And then the solar company has to sign the paper work that's necessary for them to become a secondary lien behind the first mortgage company. And it's not impossible, but it's just additional protocol. And a lot of buyers, because they're already paying a premium for the property, don't have a lot of room in their debt to income ratio to absorb that payment. So what we're seeing happen more times than not is the seller paying it off, and sometimes unexpectedly, and it's eating up some of their equity. So it depends on the strategy that you want to employ around putting the panels on. If they're for you and you're trying to lower your carbon footprint, and you're trying to do the green thing, and, more power to you, and you don't want an electric bill, I get all that. But if you're thinking that that's going to add significant value to the property, appraisers are having a difficult time in quantifying what that value adds, because they're not, most of the time, not free and clear. They're just additional debt on the property. So there's not a clear-cut answer for that. I don't think we're far enough into the world of solar panels to apply a across-the-board value to them. But I'm happy to get an appraiser on the air with us to answer that specific question. Maybe in one of the upcoming shows, I'll call my friend Peter over at SoFlo Appraisal, because he would have the answer in how he's approaching valuing the solar panels. He's been a general appraiser here in Florida for, 25 years, and he's a rock star. So maybe I'll pose that question to him. But in my practice, I'm doing a transaction right now, and the solar panels are less than a year old, but the appraiser's not giving a considerable value to them, so the seller's just paying them off at closing. The good news is he's got a ton of equity in the house, and he was thinking he would have to pay them off anyway, so it's not a surprise. But I just share all of that because there's a lot of moving parts around, putting a solar system on the house, and a lot of people perceive it as a dollar for dollar. I spent $50,000 on the panels. It should be at least a $50,000 bump in value. And I'm not seeing it work out that way. Think of it like a pool too. People will pay, 50, 60, 100 grand to put a pool in, and it might add, $15,000 to the value of the house, which I get it. We're in Florida and you want the pool, but is it the best use of your money if you're just trying to add value to the property? So anyway, I appreciate that question. It's one we get a lot, so hopefully that gave you some clarity, but I welcome a conversation around it if you need more info. So, hey, let me throw it over to Dom for another question.
Art is asking, what is the minimum age to qualify for a reverse mortgage? I'm reading 55 and also 62 on Google. Not sure which is correct.
Hey, Art, you're not alone in the confusion around that. They are both correct. The traditional reverse mortgage program was always available to people once they, were 62 or older. There are some newer programs that are available to people as young as 55. There are additional equity requirements and property valuation requirements. It's a slightly different animal, but it is available to somebody as young as 55 years old. However, we're still seeing the lion's share of people that are inquiring about reverse mortgages be over 62 years old, because the majority of people are using it as an equity management tool through retirement. And guys, I get it. You've heard so many bad things for so many years about reverse mortgages that some of you just glaze over when you hear the word and you think it's a bad thing. And it was abused. There's no question about it. It has a bad reputation because some people were hurt by it, but there were major revisions to how the program works to protect the borrower. It's a very different program. It's a different process. It still gives you access to your equity. You still don't have to make a monthly mortgage payment. You don't lose your house. The bank doesn't own your house. There's a whole host of misconceptions around it. And I always enjoy talking about it because I think for the right person, it can be life-changing. But the reality is they were abused in the past, and some people carry the misconception that they're still dangerous. So I say this all the time. They're just a tool, right? So think of a hammer. A hammer can build a house, can build a beautiful house. You can create a home with a hammer, but that same hammer can be used to tear the house down. It's not the tool's fault. It's who holds the tool and their intent and how they want to use it. And that's how I feel about reverse mortgages. For the right people, it's amazing. It's life-changing. I've seen people break down in tears because they can now afford to go grocery shopping again because they're not burdened with the mortgage payment. And I've counseled people that it did not make sense for. If you're going to sell your property in a short period of time after the reverse, it does not make sense. So, but to answer your question, both of those numbers are right. It's just a slightly different product. So you hear the music, that means we're going to roll into a break. We're going to be back in 2 short minutes to take more of your questions. Sit tight. We'll be right back.
New to South Florida and ready to sit down roots with a new home? Willow Title Services makes closing a smooth, painless, and positive experience. With individual service for each buyer's needs, Willow Title Services has a combined 50 years plus of experience with industry-leading closing techniques. Call Willow Title Services today at 561-737-1630. That's 561-737-1630. Online at willowtitleservices.com. Willow Title Services is rooted in experience to help you get to closing.
Here's another 5-star review.
As a realtor, I have a bunch of mortgage brokers to choose from, but I prefer to work with Mark and his Mr. Mortgage team. In this crazy market, there is no room for error, especially on the mortgage side. Mark's team moves fast, keeps everybody in the loop, and makes things happen. They always give my clients a great deal and take the time to walk them through every step of the process. When you're considering a lender, I encourage you to talk to Mark Eitel and the Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com, www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel. You are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show, and you're in the right place. If you've got questions about real estate or mortgage, if you want the real information, not just the headlines, so you can go out there and make better decisions for you and your family when it comes to equity management, debt consolidation, buying or selling property, you are in the right place. So we always appreciate you joining us. Hey, if you've liked any of what you heard so far, if any of this is making sense and it's resonating, I'm hoping I can count on you to share the show. If you've got friends or family or coworkers, or just there's somebody at the end of the bar at the Moose Club and you hear them talking about a reverse mortgage, for example, to use the question that we just had, share the show with them, or have them give us a call. I'm hoping I can count on you to spread the word. We're always trying to grow the listenership. We're having a great time doing this, and we love answering your questions. So please share the show. But hey, speaking of questions, I know we got some stacked up because I went a little bit long there, so I'm going to throw it over to Dom and see if we can't get through some of these.
This question came in during the week. Am I able to get a mortgage using my disability and Social Security income? What if it's non-taxable income?
Hey, that's a great question. And I wanted Dom to read this one because it did come in during the week. And I already talked to this gentleman. He is a very, very cool guy. If you're listening, thank you for the question. I wanted to include this because a lot of people have this question. And in this gentleman's instance, he's also a veteran. He's on full disability. So he does get a handsome income each month from his disability and his Social Security. He served our country. He's fully disabled. So he's going to be able to utilize his VA loan with no funding fee and borrow 100% of the purchase of a new property with no mortgage insurance. But his question, which Dom just read to you, was how do I use my non-taxable disability and Social Security when I'm trying to qualify for a mortgage? Because you may or may not know this, but we as lenders use your gross income, not your after-tax income. So if you're making $80,000 a year, you might only be bringing home, $68,000, $65,000. I don't know, if we have to pay off everybody's student loans, we might be bringing home $40,000. But anyway, that's a whole nother topic for a different show. Those guys do it much better than I do. But my point in all this is because we underwrite your debt to income ratio using your gross income, this gentleman has a valid question. My income is tax-free. It's non-taxable. I'm not getting the full buying power, if you will, of somebody who's using their gross income. So there's a very simple answer to this. We gross your income up. So let's say your accumulated monthly income from your pension, your social, your disability is enough that puts you in, let's say, a 22% tax bracket, 25%. It doesn't matter what the tax bracket is. We gross you up accordingly. So we would take, if it was a 25% tax bracket, we would take all of your monthly income and multiply it times 125% to gross you up so that you're getting the full benefit of a gross income number when you're being underwritten for a mortgage. So I wanted to share that because it's one I get a lot. It didn't just come in on the hotline. It came in earlier in the week, and I wanted Dom to squeeze that one in because I thought it was important. So, but I appreciate you for that question. I really enjoyed talking to you during the week, and I'm excited to see how you move forward in this journey, and I'm looking forward to being a part of it. And hey, while I'm thinking about that, I want to give a couple other shout outs because I had a really good week with listeners this week. Hey, I want to say thanks to Richard and Susan. We're helping them with the transaction. They're listeners. And Susan, I know if you're hearing me, you're sitting in the parking lot of the ballet dance instructor or dance center there with your granddaughter. So I just wanted to shout out Richard and Susan, thank them for trusting us with their approval process, and I'm looking forward to working with you. Also, I wanted to give a shout out to Bert and Margie. We talked about a reverse mortgage, and awesome people. They just, they're at a place where a lot of people are. They're living on a fixed income, and their savings has not gone as far as they thought it would because they're healthier and living longer than they anticipated. So we're looking at maybe helping them with a reverse mortgage so they can better manage their equity through retirement. So I wanted to give a shout out to them. And hey, Colton, thanks for trusting me and speaking with your grandparents regarding the reverse mortgage. I really, really appreciate everybody taking the time to give us a call and trusting us with their circumstances. So, hey, with that, I'm going to throw it over to Dom for more questions.
Lenny sent an email. I'm 72, selling my house and downsizing. My wife wants to buy a little condo, but I want to rent. Does buying at 72 make sense? Is it hard for someone at my age to get a mortgage? I'm retired with a pension and Social Security.
Hey, that's a great question. And that was Lenny. Hey, Lenny, great question. So just like the previous question, if your income is tax-free, we're just going to gross it up. So you can use all sources of retirement, pension, Social Security, 401k, IRA, whatever you're getting disbursements from, assuming that it's going to remain in place for at least the next 3 years. We look at your Social Security awards letter. Anyway, we can gross all that up. So assuming there's enough income there, it will not be difficult to qualify for the mortgage. Certainly not on your age and not on your source of income. And a lot of people have that misconception about, hey, I'm 70, I'm 80, can I get a 30-year fixed rate mortgage? Who would loan an 80-year-old money for 30 years? And the reality is you cannot be discriminated against for your age, for your sex, for your color, for your, there's a list of reasons you can't be discriminated against. One of them is age. So you could be 100 years old and borrow 30-year money. So that's not an issue. One really interesting thing, your question is, does it make sense to buy at 72? I think if you have a chance to buy, it always makes sense, assuming that you're going to, live for at least 5 years because you're going to be gaining equity. If you go first, you've left your wife in a position where she's got some equity, maybe enough equity to, sell and take some cash out and help manage her remaining years. So I would love to learn more about your personal circumstances, but if you're going to pay rent, especially today, right, where rents are today, almost always you could buy the equivalent property and pay the same or less for a mortgage. So in my mind, establishing any type of equity would make sense over renting. And then I want to throw this out there. We were just kind of doing the reverse mortgage thing. There's a strategy where you can use a reverse mortgage to purchase a property and go into the new property and never have a monthly mortgage payment. Yes, you're going to have to pay your taxes. Yes, you're going to have to pay your insurance or association dues, but you could make a strategic move where you're selling the big house and moving into a condo with a reverse mortgage. So Lenny, if you go first, now you've left your wife in a position where she's got the house, she's well looked after, and she's never going to have to make a mortgage payment. So I'd love to talk to you about that. But, my short answer without knowing any of the deep and intimate, details of your personal journey here, my initial answer is yes, it would make sense to explore it. But I certainly welcome the opportunity to learn more about your circumstances and encourage you to give us a call. And if you have additional questions, just call 855-462-7292. I'll be happy to deep dive that with you. But let me throw it over to Dom and see if we have another question.
Ken called. I need to refinance to pay off our cars and credit card. My wife disagrees and doesn't want to refi. We have a 3.125% rate. The mortgage is in just my name. Can I do a refi without her?
Hey, Ken, that is a good question. No, you can't. If it's your primary residence deeded in both your names, she's going to have to sign the mortgage. She doesn't have to be underwritten for the debt, but she is going to have to sign the documentation. You're going to have to fully disclose what you're up to. And yeah, I get it. You know, she's married to that 3.125. That's a very sexy rate. A lot of people are struggling with the same circumstances that you're in. You could possibly look at an equity line to pay all that off. She might be more receptive to that. But a better strategy is, you know, present the truth to her, let her know what you've gotten yourself into debt-wise, and maybe just look at a monthly outflow comparison and show her how paying off all that stuff is going to reduce your monthly outflow, and you could use that additional money to increase the pace at which you pay down the principal, accelerate it, if you will. So hopefully that answers your question, but there's no sneaking around on this one, Ken. If she's on the deed, she's signing. You can't do it without her, but hopefully that answers your question. If you need more info, you know how to get us. But you hear the music? That means we're going to jump into a 2-minute break. We're going to be right back to take more of your questions.
Buying a home can be stressful. Willow Title Services will help you close the deal. Offering tailored services for your unique home buying needs, you'll have a single team member guide you from day one to the day you get your keys. They have a combined 50 years of experience, so trust the closing experts and contact them today. Visit WillowTitleServices.com. That's WillowTitleServices.com. Willow Title Services is rooted in experience to help you get to closing.
Here's another 5-star review.
We kept our business above water with credit cards during the pandemic. I'm glad we did. Business is better than ever. But I didn't want to be a slave to those credit card payments. I called Mark about the rec loan he advertises. Long story short, we did a rec refinance and paid off everything, even the car. Now we only have the mortgage payment. We're saving a bunch every month. Yes, we are happy to recommend Mark and the Mr. Mortgage team.
Hey, it's Mark Eitel, host of the Mr. Mortgage Show. You hear me all the time talking about the need to have the very best team representing you in a real estate transaction. And that starts with a really great agent. If you've got a great agent, that's awesome. But if you don't, check out www.reallyGreatAgents.com. There you'll find the best of the best, regardless of the city they work in or the brokerage they work for. www.reallyGreatAgents.com. www.reallyGreatAgents.com.
Are inflation and everyday expenses eating into your retirement income? Maybe you've considered a reverse mortgage and have unanswered questions like, do I still own my property? Can the bank kick me out? What happens when I die? Can I still leave my house to my kids? These are all great questions. Visit www.moreaboutreverse.com to learn more. That's www.moreaboutreverse.com. www.moreaboutreverse.com.
Welcome back to the Mr. Mortgage Show. Call us now at 855-462-7292.
All right, we are back. My name is Mark Eitel, and you are listening to the Mr. Mortgage Show. And hey, I just looked out the window of the studio, and there is a lady. I don't know if it's Ken's wife or someone's grandma, but there's a lady out there with a mustache leaning against my car. That's very, very unhappy. I can tell by the way she's pacing around. But Mrs. Ken, I assure you, I told him that you would need to be involved. He can't sneak around on the mortgage without you knowing. So, but I hope that answered your question, Ken, because a lot of people have that question. Can one person do it without the husband or without the wife being aware? A lot of times it comes into play with people who are getting divorced. I'm working with a couple now, and thankfully it's amicable. Super, super nice people. I don't know how they ever fell out of love because individually they're both really cool people. But she's buying a property and he's signing a document. And it's as simple as this. He's signing a document waiving his right to that as a marital asset since they're still legally married. But there is a protocol around it where you can do these type of transactions, but it does require full disclosure. And in this instance, as I mentioned, they're both super, super nice people and they're working together, and he's signing away his right to the property as a marital asset because they just want the best for each other. But anyway, I hope that answers your question. If you need more more information about that, just give me a shout. Or if you're going through a divorce and you're trying to figure out, how do I refinance the property I currently own into just my name or into my wife's name or into my husband's name so that I can go out there and buy my own property and start my life? There are a lot of nuances around that transaction strategically and how you do it so that everybody's interest is protected. And we've got divorce certified lenders on our team so that they really have a lot of empathy and understand the working parts of how all of that moves. They're not taking one side over another by any means, but they're giving you the information, just as we talked about with the people who are in the middle of the transaction I'm working on now, in how you can, sign that one single document. The attorneys that are handling the divorce are able to negotiate that and draw up that document. So in this instance, the wife is able to go out there and buy the property and start her life. So I throw all that out there because we don't talk about it a lot, and it is a big, big part of, it really is a part of life right now. And I think it's a product of the pandemic. People sat at home together, locked in the same house for months, and realized, I don't really like this person. It's a lot easier to stay in love when you're going to work 8 or 10 hours a day. But anyway, there's a way. If there's a will, there's a way around just about anything. So I throw that out there because if you want questions answered about how to structure that through a divorce, we're happy to help. So I'm going to throw it over to Dom to see if we have another question teed up.
Cody is asking, I recently started my own business. It's been a little more than a year. I'm doing great and want to buy a house. I've been told I need to wait 2 years after starting my business. Is this true?
Hey, Cody, that's a great question. It could be true, right? So the rule of thumb is 2 years self-employed. But here's the thing. There are a lot of nuances around that. So I'd need to know, did you start a company that was very similar to the company you left? What was the position with the company you left? For example, if you were, a construction superintendent and you went and started your own construction company, well, you stayed in the same industry and you've got, ample experience, you may be able to get approved with as little as 1 year tax returns. And that's typically what it is. It's 1 year documentable tax returns, or in this case, the hard and fast rule is 2 years. That's a good default. But there are programs that would let you get into a property with as little as 1 year history as self-employed. But great question. I appreciate that. And if you need more information, give us a call, 855-462-7292. I'll be happy to dive deeper with you on that. And congratulations, Cody. I know a lot of people who started businesses in and after the pandemic and are killing it. So congratulations. But hey, we had some great questions today. We really did. Cody, thanks for that. We started off with Juan talking about warranties and condos. I hope I was able to clear that up. And, Art jumped in with the minimum age to qualify for a reverse mortgage. So some good stuff this week, guys. Thank you. If you called us during the week and we're helping you, thank you so much. We appreciate the opportunity to serve you. You've heard me ask before. I got a favor. If you like what you hear and you want more of it, check out MrMortgageRadio.com, or more importantly, share the show. Share that link with people that you think would benefit from some of this information, because we're trying to spread the word. If you need us during the week, check out Mr. Mortgage Radio for the back episodes. Mr. Mortgage, www.mr.mortgage.com. Go to Facebook and search the Mr. Mortgage. Heck, go to Google and Google Mark Eitel and Mr. Mortgage, and we're going to pop up everywhere. But you hear the music? That means we've wrapped up another week. I can't believe it. Thank you so much for joining us. Dom and I will be back next week right here, same time, same station. Thank you.
That's a wrap. Join Mark Eitel next week for more thrilling, edge-of-your-seat discussions about real estate and mortgages right here on The Mr. Mortgage Show.